this to me is like the really fascinating material.
We don't know what the answer is, but we're looking for patterns.
I think we're looking at kind of a type of cosmic alchemy.
The story slowly grew into business.
But still, a lot of people don't know that this technology actually exists.
The possibilities here are pretty
We
mind-boggling.
can't just believe that it was the work of these lone troubled individuals.
Oh man. So how's life treating y'all?
Oh, it's going okay.
You know,
Cool.
holidays. It's busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand. How's it going, Steve?
It's going. Sorry I scared you earlier. I was taking a power nap there. And
That's all right.
had like 7 missed calls from, but you were an hour early, weren't you?
I was an hour early, but I'd rather be an hour early than, late. And I swear I told myself 50 times it was 7 Central and it's my 8 o'clock, but that 7 just stuck in my mind. So I'm like making everybody eat fast, like hurry up and eat.
Well, we got 3 time zones. We've got 3 time zones represented
I know.
here, you know.
Yeah.
We got Pacific, Central, and Eastern, so
It's amazing. It is amazing because, not that many people's lifetime ago, this would have been totally impossible,
Oh yeah. One generation ago. Think about how you would have had to pay. I think you mentioned this in the book. I think Steve actually mentions this, where Oak Ridge to Knoxville was long distance.
It was like a day's journey. Yeah, I remember my grandparents came from Ramsey, Straw Plains, that area, and my dad or my granddad would ride a mule from Strawberry Plains to Knoxville and back, and it would take all day.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're talking about like what?
I mean, that's like 17 miles, 20 miles, something like that. It's like.
Yeah, it's quite incredible just to think about. I mean, in our lifetimes, how much has changed. I remember picking up a phone when I was little, when I was living in the farmhouse, and it was a party line, And many a time I got in trouble for listening to, but
I used to do that when I was a kid. Listen to all the neighbors, and they can hear you pick up.
Yep, jibber jab. Yeah, they were just going on about whatever. But
hey,
so fun.
Well, just to let you know, we've already started recording. So,
cool.
Yeah, we're doing this new thing where I want it to be more organic, but I do have to say that we are glad that Rob is here. He's kind of he's been absent the last 3 shows. He's been working his butt off.
Yeah.
Way to lay on the guilt, Adam.
I'm good at that. What can I say?
At least he's working. I mean, gosh, that's a legit excuse. You want to try to get it in. I mean, you got to come up with the money for the holidays, like I said.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's so much. Everything goes up. Everybody wants to be comfy, cozy, and get somebody they love something cool.
It's not like Luke, who's just like, oh man, I don't know, dude. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Life as a fry cook is so hard.
Yeah,
Bro.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. My girlfriend's giving me a hassle, bro, and like, I just don't know. So we got a new co-host, Surfiel. I don't think you guys have met him.
How you guys doing?
Is he there?
Yes, I'm
He's
right
here.
here.
Yep.
How you doing? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet y'all too. My name is Surfiel, and I was a fan of the show who has been I've been welcomed into the fold for a few episodes here and having a great time.
Yep.
Well, you don't know Steve and I. Steve and I are a little crazy too, so we'll fit right in. And I've known Adam and Rob now. How long has it been? This is our first time.
Oh man, so I want to say that we had you guys on. I mean, we've had Steve on
multiple
since 2015, I think. So it's been about 3 years. But I think we've had you on Sysco now. I think like April of 2017. So we're coming up on a couple of years. So it's been It's been a good little while since we had you both on, and at that time you hadn't even I think you had just started on this book.
Very possibly, yeah. Because I mean, it was about, I'm going to say a good 2.5 years in the making, Steve, because it took Steve a long time to convince us. I mean, I don't know. Do you want to hear the kind of story how it happened? You want to?
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to.
Well, let's hear that. I'm gonna. What's the? Give the full title of the book for everybody. What is it called?
The full title is "We Are All Children in the Wilderness of the Afterlife: A Guided Tour Through a Haunted Life." Okay. And basically, my take on that was I was trying to find a way to say, basically last frontier, the unexplored, like, we've gone into space. We know some things. We know, some things about the ocean, but everybody's got questions about the afterlife. Nobody knows. Everything is theory and hope, or you have nothing, or it's just, boom, that's it. It's over. So that's basically what I mean by that. And it was really neat because we met through Zariah, everybody knows Zariah. And we were on, I think Steve was on his show. I was on his show. And then he told Steve, hey, I think, you guys have a lot of the same type of stories and experiences. You should get together and talk. So he had us both on the show. Steve and I talked right before that. And I think we had like a 4 or 5 hour conversation.
Yeah, that's right. I was just like, I've got this person you need to talk to, and then I'm going to have you guys on the show. And yeah, first call, we exchanged information. I think I called you, you called me, whatever. But yeah, we talked for hours.
Steve has written all these fantastic books and put all these stories down. And he basically said, man, Sysco, you got some really good stories. If you don't write them down, they're gone. And I never wanted to be that person that said, buy the book or it's in the book. I never wanted to be that, but he did make sense. And I said, well, for that reason and that reason alone, that I decided to write it and put some of my experiences in there. And I told him, but you bastard, you're coming with me.
Well, because Steve, what you have done, there may be some people out there that don't know you, maybe have not heard some of the stories, but basically what you have done, you've preserved a lot of your own kind of family stories. And incidentally, you are from our area. You're from Tennessee, so.
Yeah, I'm from East Tennessee, grew up there out on the West Coast now. But yeah, I grew up just, how the South has such an oral tradition. You sit around, you swap stories and stuff. In some cases, not everybody does. There were people that I had to basically drag it out of them with a log chain to get them to talk. But that was what I thought, just like my grandmother and all these people that told all these fantastic stories. Just about everybody, especially in the first book, everybody that told me those stories are gone, and in some cases for decades. But I had an epiphany at my grandmother's funeral, laying there, and she was just, I'd never seen her so still because, she was dead. And I was just like, all those stories, all that stuff, everything, it's right there with her. And I just thought, I got to retell these. And then that led to talking to other people and remembering stuff, because I was a late in life child. My brother was 17 years older than I, only sibling. Wow. And so my parents, basically it's like raising two separate families. And the time I came along, all their friends were much older, so there weren't any kids or anything for me to play with. So when we go visit, I would bug the adults to tell me a story. And that's how a lot of that came about. But everybody knows, I don't believe in that. But there was this one time.
Yeah, isn't it true? I mean, it takes I know Steve also wrote a book about his own personal experiences, but it does take a little bit of, these stories are kind of personal. You know what I mean? And to put that out there, you're certainly not doing it for the money. I don't know where these people get the idea that if you write a book, you're coasting now, That's not the way it works, It's not the way it works. I mean, you could sell books from here to, Kingdom Come, and you're not really making, but that's not the point. You don't do it for that. You do it for what we said. You put them down. So my kids have them, their kids have them. And you put a lot of heart and soul in it. I mean, the stories that I told, I mean, there's many times I said, okay, Steve, read it. You know, he'd read it and he goes, oh my God, this is really good. And I'm like, what, really? And I'm like, this is how it happened. And you try to write it in a way where the person is there. You try to describe it. I'm not a writer. You know, I just told it the way it was. And Steve is like, I felt like I was there. I could see it. You described it great, you know, and, you know, he'd look at it and he'd edit just, you know, punctuation, spelling, whatever. And then I'd get it back and we write it again. It's not a process where it takes 10, 15 minutes to do this. There's a lot, you know, there's some chapters in there that really rip me, you know, because I'm going back through some really emotional stuff. But I figured if I didn't say it the way it happened, I'm not being true to myself or the reader. So I had to, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. You know, Sysco, you describe yourself in the book as an empath. Talk to me a little bit about what that means. Like what exactly it is that you
sure,
how you define that.
Right. Okay. As far as I would define it, and it's by no means the definition because everybody you talk to is going to tell you a little bit different. But basically what it means is there are different kinds of empaths, but mostly empaths are extremely sensitive to other energies that are out there, which means from the living. Say you can, I can walk into a restaurant, and as I'm walking past people in booth, sitting there going about their day, eating in separate booths, as I'm walking by, I can tell if that person is extremely depressed or in pain or worried or very happy or nervous. I'm picking that up as I'm walking through. It's 10 times stronger with animals. So like I can't go to the zoo. I have a hard time going to anything like shelter or something. Yeah, because the animals are so scared and it's so hyped up. That kind of thing. So if I'm getting that from the living, I can also pick that up from the dead, depending on what type of a haunting or a ghost it may be, if you know what I mean. So we all hear things like people going to look at houses, say you're going to buy a new house, and that person walks in, and before they ever get out of the car, they go, I'm not going in there. I'm not buying this house. That's an empathetic feeling, you know. So I think each person that I've talked to that says they're an empath, or at least they might not even know they're an empath, they kind of describe it that way. And then there's empaths that go out to different levels, like say when the world is in a mess, you know, they're very agitated and they can feel it. Or before storm weather wise, you know, they can pick it up just like animals do. Animals act funny before a hurricane or tornado. You can feel different pressure and energy in the air. All of that can be an empath. As far as myself, like I said, I'm extremely sensitive to animals and people and the dead. And that's kind of how my empathy comes through. And you have to learn how to shut that off. And for years, it was very difficult to decipher what was mine and what was somebody else's. And I think that's what really makes people crazy, especially in their young teen years, if you're trying to decipher that. You know, if you're an empath and you're picking up, say your parents are always fighting or, you know, whatever it may be, school, job, and you're picking up on other people's feelings, how do you know that's not yours? You know what I mean? You kind of have to let it, you have to get yourself down to like a clean slate, meditating wise and chilling and grounding. And then if you walk out into, like, say you go grocery shopping or something and you start picking up all these erratic feelings, it gets a little bit more noticeable, you know. But of course, I'm no expert. You know, you get an expert on here to explain it completely different, but that's basically what it boils down to.
Has it ever been just something that's been completely overwhelming that you walk into some place and you say, well, I just got to go. I can't stay here.
All the time. All the time. I can't go to a mall. My husband was extremely lucky when he met me, and I tell him that all the time. I don't like shopping. I don't like jewelry. I make my own jewelry because I know where the stones come from. I, put my own self into it. I don't like, even say, okay, this is going to sound really weird, but bear with me. Diamonds. I dislike diamonds big time because of what they come from. Do you know how much, pain, to get that diamond, whether it's been mined or, the village in Africa or wherever it came from.
Yeah, the whole blood diamond thing.
Yes, the whole thing. I just don't get a good feeling off them. To me, I'd rather have, something else. I'd rather have,
So it sounds like there's a little bit of like a psychometry in there as well. Like you're picking up feelings from an object.
I just don't like it. And I know where they come from. You know what I mean? To me, I just get a lot of negative from it. So I'm not into it. Malls, I hate shopping. It's just too draining. I really don't like malls at all. There's been places, I'm married to a musician and he goes a lot of different places to get new equipment and things like that. And he pulled into the parking lot. The minute I opened the door and put my foot on the blacktop, I pulled it back up. I said, I'm not going in here. I don't know what happened on this land, but the minute I put my foot on that blacktop, I don't like it here. You can go, I'll wait, but please be fast, because it feels like a draining, I can't explain it. Have you ever walked onto a battlefield and you just get that real heavy, cumbersome feeling, like a weight?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it feels. And the closer you get to whatever the source may be, the more intense it gets. So if I don't have to put myself through that, I don't. If I'm going into a place and I'm prepared for it, then you're prepared for it. You ground yourself, you do other things, I personally choose, protection. I've got, a huge faith base. And, I pull in all of that. And then I prepare myself for it. Then I'm walking into it with a purpose. It's kind of like, I guess I pull off my Native American and, that tribal sense of, I can explain it like this. When you see portrayed in a movie, Native Americans getting ready for battle, they're usually putting on face paint and doing things like that. They're preparing themselves. And that has some to do with camouflage, but mostly what it has to do, it's like a ceremony of pulling out what they call their shadow person. And their shadow person is what they keep inside to do what they have to do next, like whether it's war or hunt or whatever. You have to pull out your inner warrior and pull it and put it forward. Does that make sense? So it's like a little ritual that they're pulling that out, putting it forward. But they also know how to put that back, put the warrior back and put it back to sleep so you can go on about your day and be a normal, regular person. Very much like soldiers have to do, except in a lot of cases, we don't teach the soldiers how to put that back. We just tell, bring it forward, and that's it. And they don't teach them how to reground and put all that back to sleep. It's silly up front. And if that makes any sense.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about this kind of stuff, about the warrior culture, and like we had a guy on talking about wolves, and we were talking about how like a lot of cultures would do that, where they would separate the like young men and teach them how to be warriors, and they grounded them in some kind of sense of that. And like we don't really do that anymore. Like some of the ancient cultures, I think, were much more in tune with the world and humanity than we are now.
I think we're just very quick to get up and have to do, what do I have to do next? So you hit the ground running, and then drop at the end of the day, and then you get up and you do it again. But if there's so many, it's not just Native American, it's whatever tribal culture, it's different spiritual paths. It's people who are musicians and find their quiet there and ground there. Creative people, artists, anybody that has something that they do that replenishes their energy and their joy. if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Different people find different ways to ground, even though they're not calling it that. Now, if you want to add on the metaphysical side of the whole thing, is where grounding sounds so mystical, and I've had many people ask me, well, I don't know if I can do this grounding. And I'm like, do you take a shower? Or do you take a bath? Mm-hmm. They say yes. And I say, well, do you take a shower? Yes, shower. I say, okay, first of all, you're pretty much naked when you get in there, right? Cool. Get in there, turn on the hot water, close your eyes, put your palms against the wall, and just look up at the water and just repeat whatever mantra you wish, and imagine the water coming down on you is like a golden light, and it's just washing all the negativity out and down the drain. And when you're done doing all of that, go nice and slow, as much as you want to get into it. You could do just a simple mantra of, I am happy, I'm healthy, it's going to be a good day. Whatever you want to do, any kind of, if you want to pray, if you have a song you want to recite or sing, but poetry, whatever calms you, just let it all go down the drain. And then before you're done, imagine all of the good energy coming up out of the earth and just refilling you with good energy. You try it that way. You don't have to get into a lot of other stuff. If you want to add other things, if you want to do fire gazing, like I'm looking at a candle right now. If I stare into this flame and I just imagine the same golden light going through me and then pulling up good energy out of the earth, is it just imagining it that makes it so? Is it some kind of just a calming thing? I don't know. I don't have those answers, but I know it works. You see what I mean? Whether it's like listening to certain frequencies, such as in Buddhism, or drumming, and how many different cultures do that. See, and it's what works for you, or any combination of those things. So
yeah,
that's how I look at it. I look at it, yes, it's the big mystery cool thing, but it's also a very simplistic thing that's personal to you and what works for you too, if that makes sense.
It does. Steve, do you find yourself having to do these kind of things yourself?
Oh yeah, I've had that kind of experience from childhood, and luckily I had my grandmother that sensed that I had those abilities, and she kind of warned me. She would say, you feel things, and made me understand that there was a lot out there that we don't know about, and how to accept it and how to deal with it and how to shut it off. But I have that too. I ground myself a lot of times. It's something just as simple as going outside barefoot.
Yeah.
And it's like she said, you have to imagine that negative energy shedding off of you and you bring it back in. But I'm not as empathetic as Sysco, but I do experience some of the same things. I can walk through a restaurant. I can tell you who's having marital problems, who's happy, who's depressed. There's certain places I can't go, like nursing homes and things like that. It just, unless I'm fully prepared and have my crystals and stuff with me, hey, whatever works, it'll drain you. One of the worst experiences I ever had, I had to go to East Tennessee Children's Hospital in Knoxville one time to visit a friend whose daughter was in there, something minor, but I went to visit. And that place is just, it was just overwhelming because you've got these innocent children in there, some of them in just incredible pain. And there's almost like an evil aura that surrounds that. In my experience, it felt like there were things there that were dark that were feeding off that pain.
Yes.
Interesting. That was the theme of our last show with Nick Redford. We talked about kind of the paranormal parasites, that whole concept. Yeah. Very interesting that you say that.
Should we tell them about the battlefields?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when you go on a battlefield, I have a couple of people that just do battlefield rescue. And I'm very into that because the whole soldier leave no man behind thing. And I know that sounds crazy, but, where do you cut that off? I don't know how to do that, because I'm, well, empathetic. So, and I'm a soldier, and I just believe that when you go there and there's a confused anybody, but for Pete's sakes, a soldier is so caught up in war and, just repeating things over and over again. And you've got all different kinds, all in the same place. Some know they're dead, some don't. Some are repeating stuff over and over again. Some are there and just staying there because they don't know what else to do. They might be afraid to go to the next step, whatever you might call the next step, the other side. What's the other side? I don't know. But you shouldn't have to stay there and suffer. Once is enough. Once is too much.
Yeah,
so
especially in that
many
capacity.
people go in. Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. So, many people go in to do, like I said, battlefield rescue. And I got a call one night from a friend, and he'd been doing it for, 15 years. And he says, Sysco, that when you go there are going to be things who don't want you to enlighten these beings, to tell them what's going on. You're going to have to fight, right? And I said, absolutely. The parasites, right? He said, oh, yeah. He said, it's like a buffet for them. They want them to suffer. They want them to continue and go through that pain and cry out and scream. And they just hover and just suck it all in. And I'm like, okay,
This is essentially what you could think of as like a demon, really.
Well, yeah, but there's also negative entities as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I would say on every level, from human to ancient, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Wouldn't you say, Steve? I mean, look at the green-eyed monster. What is Green Eyes?
Oh, that's
Chickamauga?
Chickamauga Battlefield there at Fort Oglethorpe, just outside of Chattanooga.
Coming up a lot on this show, actually.
If you've never been there, go. But like I said, be prepared. And I don't know what it is, and I talked about this in the book, but there is something about Civil War battlefields in particular that have an even stronger feeling. I don't even know how to describe it, but I've been to battlefields. I've been to World War I battlefields in France. I've been to different battlefields in Europe, even in Korea and places like that where there's been conflicts. And you can feel that tragedy and that sense of loss there to a degree, but there's just something about those Civil War battlefields, particularly in the South there, and it'll knock your socks off, especially if you're not expecting it. And I don't know if it's because instead of some foreign enemy, it was literally brother against brother. It was us killing us, and I think that may have something to do with it. Plus the fact that the majority of the soldiers were very, very young. Mm-hmm. And they're just like in Knoxville there, the Battle of Fort Sanders, place like that, where they had this huge ditch that they filled up with bodies to the point that they could walk across the ditch because it was so full of dead people. That's got to leave some kind of indelible mark.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. It's rough, and I do believe too that there's multiple levels, and Steve and I have talked a lot about this too. That if you think about just the sheer intestinal fortitude of the American soldier, I've never seen anything like it. And I don't care what war you're talking about; they're just absolutely amazing. Whether you're going through, just your training exercises or you're in actual combat, they don't give up, and they're fighting for the guy standing next to them. It has nothing to do with the politics. It has nothing to do with all the stuff going on back home in the boardrooms and the bullshit. It has to do with the guy standing next to you. You're going home that day. And that didn't change from 100 years ago. And these kids, they're talking, they go to the local store in town to hear about what's coming up because, very few newspapers, they were, more like the local holler, and it's posted on the door at the local general store, or somebody is standing there reading it because not everybody, read back then, not as well. And they're hearing these things coming up. Well, is there going to be a war? Well, this state seceded and this one's gone. Well, we have to fight for our rights, and they're fighting for their state rights. And then the whole town, they had these carts that would go through the town filled with women, the local women, and then they join us. And they all jump on the cart thinking, well, what else are we going to do? Are you going to stand on the side and watch everybody in the town jump on that cart and sign up and be the only one not going? You, of course not. You're going to join. And the 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds, they wanted to join too and had to be turned away, and you've got your very old doing it as well. I think at least in the Civil War, they were anywhere between 17 and 80 years old. You're wiping out the town there,
Yeah, some towns of young men did get wiped out.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And then, they thought the first battle, which was Bull Run or Manassas, they were both, had two names. The townspeople took picnic lunches and carriages and dressed up to watch this because they really thought it was going to be over in one shot. And boy, were they surprised.
I'll never forget that. My brother showed me some pictures that he had found. He was a big Civil War historian. And there was these people up on a bluff. They're in their finery, their silk coats and their dresses. And they're sitting there having a picnic. And down below in this field, you can see the sides drawn up. The Confederates over here. And people are just like, we're getting ready to watch a football game. And we're tailgating.
Nobody understood.
But then in the next picture, excuse me, the people are gone. The picnic stuff is there just in a disarray, and there's bodies, laying on the field. Yeah. And these people thought that was, let's go watch the war. And then it was like, oh my God, there's people getting their heads blown off and getting their limbs blown off and stuff. Let's get out of here. So I don't know what possessed them or what they expected or didn't expect.
They had no concept of war. I mean, they really didn't. The Mexican War was kind of this remote thing. It didn't last very long. War of 1812 didn't really last that long. So, and it was 50 years in the past, and they had no real concept of what war was, and really the technology had gotten so much better that it was so much easier to kill people, and they had no concept of that. But let's I want to talk about some of the stories from the book.
Sure.
This is one that really stood out to me, and some of the we've actually talked about some of the stories we talked about in the previous interview. So these are things that I kind of wanted to pick out from the book that we have not talked about. That were kind of like some of these were some interesting stories, Sysco. I got to tell you. You got some creepy ones as
babe.
As well as some endearing ones. The snot hag. This was.
He had to bring up the snot. Just cold chill bumps. When as soon as you said it, went right up my arms. It still happens. That old hag, man.
Oh, you still see her?
Yeah. No, I don't see her. I only needed to see her once, and it's lasted this long. Isn't that incredible, though? We all have that one thing that just shakes you to the core. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'll go into a dark basement in Gettysburg with no problem whatsoever. That one makes my feet shake. She really does.
So what happened? What happened in this one?
Well, I can tell you from the beginning because it doesn't make sense without it.
Sure. So, yeah. Please.
I'm a little kid. And my mom and I moved around a lot. She was a single mom. She was always going for the better job or the better neighborhood and stuff like that. So we were staying in a summer bungalow in not far from where I am now in the Jersey Shore. And it was summer bungalows are a lot of glass for the view, right? So behind us was this little woods, and it was just a real nice little neighborhood, very quiet. And I'm sitting there. It's like Saturday morning, Sunday morning, something like that. No, I think it was Saturday because I was watching cartoons. And I started hearing this hustle and bustle from the other side of the house. And the way the house was laid up, it was like a shoebox. You know, it was just everything was straight through. You walked from one room into the next, into the next, into the next, into the next. And there was a bathroom off on one side, was the only room that was off. And I hear this bustle coming out of the kitchen. And I go running in there, and it's my mom, and like the chair's getting knocked over, and she's running around the kitchen saying everything at once, like, don't let it get you. Get up on the chair. Get me a broom. She's saying almost all at once. I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? There's this hubbub. And then all of a sudden I see this gray streak run across the kitchen floor that was either the ugliest cat I have ever seen or the biggest rat I had ever seen. And I was scared. And I was scared because she was so scared, you know. Well, it turned out to be a possum, and I had never seen one up close before, and it's hissing, and I mean the teeth on these things. Well, she'd scoot it one way, and it would go the other, and I'm telling you, literally, in that small kitchen, tables are being knocked over, the flower vase is being knocked over, and she's telling me to get up on the chair, get out, do this, do that, and I'm trying to do everything all at once. Open the door, you know. So I jump up on the chair and I lean over and I try to open up the side door so it'll go out the door, and it goes the other way. She's going running after it. And I don't know what she had in her hands, a dish towel, something. She's screaming and yelling and trying to make it run. Well, I go running to the front door, or go outside and run around to the front door to open it up, hoping that that way it would go out the front door, because now I'm worried for it. I'm worried for her. I'm worried for me. I'm worried for everybody. So it was kind of like really intense. And when I got to the front door and I held the front door open, it took a turn and ran toward the back. And somehow my mom had a shovel. I don't know whether she went out the back and grabbed it, you know, right out. It was probably right outside the door. She used to do a lot of gardening. And then she scooted off or what. But somehow this woman had a shovel. She goes running in, and I hear all this door slam and a bunch of commotion. And I'm just standing there froze with the front door open, hoping to God this thing will run out the door. The next time I see my mom, she's got a pillowcase in one hand and the shovel in her other hand. Her hair is all hanging down in her face, and she's just, and I'm looking at the pillowcase she's holding. It's got this blood stain growing on the outside of it.
Oh, no.
And she just looks at me, and I guess she saw that I saw that she'd killed it. And I was always big with animals, and so was she. And she said, I'm so sorry. I had to. And now I feel like I got to save my mom, because I didn't like seeing my mom like that. She was really ripped. You know, it hurt her to kill this animal.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, let's take it outside and bury it, Mom. So she's like, yeah, let's do that. So we go out the back in the flower garden, off to the side, kind of into the woods a little. And we dig a hole. And we're burying it. Now, I'm a little kid, and I finish, you know, patting it all down and everything. And while she was digging this hole, she's crying. She's tore up, probably from the fear and everything else, you know. And I pulled this ribbon out of my hair, and I decided to put a couple sticks together, make a little cross, because I just felt like I had to do something. I know it sounds silly now, but I did it. And she walked off, put the shovel up, and said, I'm going back in the house. Come in and wash your hands when you're done. And I said, okay. And I didn't know what else to do. And I had been going to Sunday school, and I decided there was a song about animals and something else. I can't remember it now, but I started singing this song just because I felt like I needed to get it all out too. And I'm singing this song. And then as I'm singing it, I'm on my hands and knees, patting down the dirt, and I could feel something watching me. I can't explain that. I just felt like something was there watching me. And I look up, and I thought my mom had come back out. It was that intense, like somebody was standing right there. And when I looked up, I could see in the kitchen, the screen door was closed, but the other door was open. I could see my mom by the kitchen counter pouring a glass of Chianti. So she was going to have a little wine. And I remember thinking, yeah, she probably needs that, you know. And I just
after the possum battle.
Yeah, after the possum battle.
Yeah.
And I remember looking back down and finishing what I was doing and getting ready to get up. And it felt worse. And I just felt this whole wash of, I don't want to say fear, but it was definitely, at that time, I didn't know. Now I call it evil. It was just a really intense, bad energy, and it was getting closer. And I looked up, and when I looked up directly in front of me, now this was a wooded area, but it was a lot of thin trees. It was getting to be fall. There was leaves on the ground, lots of leaves. And I looked up, and through the trees, I could see this woman standing there. Now she's, I honestly remember the first thought, other than being startled somebody was standing there. She's maybe 25 yards away from me. And I could tell that she had leaves all over her clothes. And I really thought she had fell down, because she'd had the leaves stuck to her. And she was just having a hard time, like I had just caught her after she got up. That's what I remember thinking at first. But she's looking right at me. And as she's looking at me, she's got her arms down to her sides, kind of splayed out a little bit. And her hands are making a fist. And then she just opened them real quick. And she'd close them again. And she'd open them real quick. And I can't explain that. That's just what she did. And she's dressed in what I now remember as layers of gray and dark, dingy clothes. Like she had a long skirt, dark in color. She had what looked like it might have been another skirt over that. She had some kind of an apron or something overlaying that. And that was like a gray or a dark, dingy color. Probably what was a long shawl over baggy shirt. And like I said, leaves all stuck to this real long, dark hair with gray and kind of scraggly and all splayed. And that had leaves in it, real long hair. And she's just looking right at me. And her skin was kind of a grayish, wasn't white. It wasn't normal. It was like a gray. It was almost like pulled over a skeleton, real tight. And she's just looking directly at me and doing this with her hands. And it scared me so bad that I tried to close my eyes and just like, I don't like her. I don't know who that is. I'm just going to close my eyes and she's going to go away or she's going to keep going. And I closed my eyes and I opened them again, hoping that she would be gone. And now she's closer. She's like made half the distance between us. She's half behind this really thin little tree. And she's looking right at me. And I can see one side of her and the front of her. And her hand is still doing that grip real slow and then like kind of back with her hand. I don't know what the heck that was. And now I notice, this is when I thought, oh my God, she's really sick because she's got this long string of snot hanging out of her nose. I still remember, I could see it. It was green because I remember thinking to myself, green is never good because, your mom would ask you, I hate to tell you this, but a country or whatever, your mom would tell you, spit in my hand. I want to see what color your spit is. And if it's green, you're in trouble because you got an infection. I remember that. I remember that. That's why I remember it was green. And this thing is hanging down past her waist and it's swinging.
What?
And I know. And that's what I think at that point in time, I can't really describe it, but it was more like, that's not normal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's not normal. And almost like she read my mind, which was also scary. She just kind of gave a little kind of like a sneery kind of smile and just kind of went at me. And that's the only time her hand ever changed. She kind of like, almost like she grabbed at me, even though she was far off, and kind of went like a back kind of thing. And I was like, oh man. And at that point in time, I think that's when I found my legs and I just bolted for that side door. And I ran in that door. I ran in that screen door. I slammed the kitchen door And I just did that little kid thing where you slam it with your back and slide down and hit your butt. And I'm like breathing like, you know, I mean, like that. I'm safe. I'm okay. Here's my mom. And now my mom is like just doing this. I can't describe it to you, but it was the most irritating thing for a kid when there's like, no, you don't understand. And she's doing, oh, you're okay. You're just upset. There's nobody out there. And I'm like, there's a woman out there and there's snot and she's trying to kill me. And she's, you know, and I'm saying all these things. She's going to kill us. And she's just wandering through the kitchen like everything is fine. And it's the most annoying thing that a parent can do. And she's like, oh, no, you're just upset. I'm so sorry that I killed the possum. You're just upset about the. I'm like, no, she's going to kill us. And she leans over me and she goes, I don't see anybody out there. And she leans over me and looks out the window of the door. And at that point in time, I'm like, oh, my God, there's glass up there. It's windows. And I just like, I realize I'm not safe anymore because this woman can just like go right through the glass and get us both, you know. So I guess in my little kid, save yourself. I run through the house and I land on the other side of the house and I land on the couch and I cover myself up with pillows because that's exactly what you do when a monster's after you. Total protection. I'm covered with all these couch pillows now. And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm screaming through the pillows. She's out there. She's out there. She's out there. And she's still wandering through the house going, I'm not seeing anybody. You're just upset. You know, and I don't know. She's talking about sandwiches and some other kind of crap. And I'm just screaming that she's out there. She's out there. She's going to kill you. Don't go to the window. She comes in the living room, looks out the living room window. And she's looking and she's still got the glass of wine in her hand. She goes, no, it's such a pretty, I really need to get out there and rake those leaves. And I'm like, this woman's out of her mind, you know, but as she's talking to me, she's telling me she's looking out of the backyard, not seeing anything. So I think, okay, the woman is gone. Okay. So I come from behind the protection of the magic couch pillows and I jump into the chair next to my mom and look out the back windows with her. And I go, okay, she's gone. Thank God she's gone. I don't know who that was. Must have been a crazy lady in the yard. And there she is, standing right behind a tree where I had buried that possum, pretty much close to that, looking right in the window, right at me and my mother. And she just smiles. And that's the moment I knew I could see things other people couldn't. If my mom couldn't see her, what the hell was that? And then I ran in the bathroom, slammed the door, and I stayed there. I don't know how long.
Wow.
And luckily, yeah, that was insane. And the whole house was glass, man. There was nowhere to go to get away from this thing. I shut down. I totally shut down. Can you imagine that? That's the moment I realized. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She can't see it. This woman's looking right at us. Yeah.
Because at first you thought this was like this is a real person. This is like a physical person. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought she was mad. Like somehow she knew we had killed the possum. I don't know all the different things that were going through my head at the time.
That's my pet possum.
Yeah, I don't know what.
It.
You know, like maybe, you know, we had been caught doing something bad, you know. But then I went through all these stages. First, I thought she had fallen because she's got all these leaves in her hair and everything, and are stuck to her clothes. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to explain that, right?
It sounds kind of like the possum might have been a familiar or something. Like I don't know.
That was my first thought. It was a witch's familiar or something when I first heard the story too.
Did you? I don't know. I have no explanation for that. I just know that was probably the first I had felt. What I felt was like real dangerous energy before. Like, you're not supposed to be here. Get out. And I'm like, okay. And that happened back at the haunted farmhouse in that barn. But in a couple other places, the cellar was kind of like that. But to this point, I had never come face to face with that. The energy coming off of that woman was intense. I don't know how to explain it.
Wow.
But I wish that was the end of the story, but it really isn't. We moved out. We were always moving. Like I said, we were only there for a short time, and there were already boxes like throughout the house. We were going, and I was like really glad. We were only there for a couple more weeks. So I never went out that back door again. I certainly never went in anywhere near those woods or the backyard. I always went out the front door and I wouldn't look at them because I didn't want to see her again. And we were out of there, and not long after that, I know we went like to Virginia. We lived there for a while, and that's where my mom got really sick. And she eventually, the cancer got her and she had passed. Now my aunt and uncle came and got me. And basically I moved in with them, and they lived in the same town. Well, I remember being in the room. They built me this little room on second floor. And I'm looking out the back window and I'm thinking, oh man, this is really nice. I had a real pretty mimosa tree right outside my window. And I'm just trying to get back into life again after losing my only parent. I'm basically an orphan now, you know, trying to chill. And I'm like, okay, I've gone back to school. I can do this. I can pull it all together. Everything is going to be okay. You know, looking out this window, and I remember looking at this mimosa tree and how beautiful those are. If you don't know what those are the little pink, fluffy, feather-like looking flowers on it. It smells really good. And I'm looking through this tree, and I'm looking at the woods, and I'm thinking, oh man, this is really nice. And then I'm looking through the woods, and I see this little bench, and I see a little house, and I see some other stuff, and I'm like, oh my God. That was the house we lived in. And now I'm on the other side of those woods where I saw that snot hag, and I'm back.
Oh boy.
I had no idea.
But you never saw her again after that.
I felt her. I never saw her again.
Huh.
I felt her, but I never saw her again. And I tried to avoid, just that little thing avoided me looking out that one little window and having any kind of comfort, because I always kept my shade, I had those little shutter things. I'd always keep them closed and try not to look out there. And if I was ever, you'd forget, you'd go about your life and you forget, and you're in the backyard or having a barbecue or something. And then all of a sudden you start getting this feeling, and you just don't want to turn around and look, because you can't even look at other people to see if they're reacting to it, because nobody else can see her. What the heck? One time my cousin threw a Frisbee. We were out playing, like Frisbee back in the day. And he threw it, and it overshot me, and it went over that fence and into those woods. And I said, man, you're going to have to go get that thing. I ain't going in there. And he was real mad at me, But I'm like, I'll face you. I'm not going back in them woods, though. You'll be mad as well. Yeah, the snot hag. She still gets me to this day. I think everybody has got something that really scares them like that, whether it's the thing in the closet or under the bed or down in the cellar, or, that movie or whatever that chills you to the bone. She's mine. Yeah. I got to admit it. She's mine. I can't figure that one out.
Steve, do you have any thoughts on that story?
It was a wild story, that's for sure. And I love the fact that moved and thought you were safe, and then realized you basically just moved around a few blocks and you're back.
Yeah. I had no clue. I know that sounds stupid to not know that my aunt's house, she lived there for as long as I knew her. I didn't know that was her house, because, see, we never went that way to go to her house. I would always walk down the sidewalk and around the block. You didn't go through the woods. You couldn't get through there. So I never, ever even realized it. And that was a shocker, boy. It really threw me back. Yep.
You also had something of kind of like a cryptid experience too in the book.
Oh, geez, man, that one was terrible. Yes, I did. Yeah, I can't explain that one either. And see, that's something in the book too. I try to say, it's like, I don't have all the answers. Yeah, I really don't think there's experts. You know what I mean? You might be an expert in a certain part of this paranormal. Steve and I call it the great paranormal onion. Every time you peel back a layer, there's another layer and another layer and another layer, or more questions pop up. I don't have any answers for her or this thing that we saw, but it sure as hell was scary.
What did you see?
Well, we were in this town, again, me and my mom, and this is after we left the snot hag. this is where we wound up. We wound up going to Florida, and then we wound up in Virginia. And we were in a place called Deep Creek, Virginia. Now, in Deep Creek, Virginia, there is a huge swamp called the Dismal Swamp. And no offense to anybody who lives in the Dismal Swamp or near the Dismal Swamp, but my God, did they name that thing right?
It doesn't sound like a nice place.
Dismal it was. And we were living on it was a friend of my mom's, and she had a stroke, and my mom was helping take care of her, which was kind of cool. It was a really nice farm, and she had hogs, and she had a couple horses, and so I was getting really. I loved being around the animals. So the only bad part about it was so rural. I mean, the farm she lived on was 650 acres. This was no small piece of property here, and most of the farms out there were that big. This is in the late 70s, so. When you have neighbors, your nearest neighbor's a mile away. So the nearest general store and had one gas pump, and you just went in there and got, small things. That was 10 miles away. The nearest town with a grocery store and a larger store was probably 28 miles away, one way. So this one road you went down went through the Dismal Swamp. The Dismal Swamp would be on both sides. And the road was so narrow, and it was so scary because the canopy would come over and it would be kind of real dark even when it was, just in the afternoon. And it would start getting dark early there, because there's no sun's getting through. And there was no curb, no guardrail, no anything. And my mom would joke and tell me, this is before you had to wear seatbelts everywhere. She had a Mustang. And she would tell me it was my job to make sure that she wasn't getting too close to the edge, just kept my mind off of things. And she says, and look for animals, because you'd have like deer run across, and, there's a lot of rattlesnakes and stuff out there. Back then, you'd look for rattlesnakes because you'd run over and hit them. You didn't want the rattlesnake to keep going, and it was just something that went on back then. So that was my job. And I'm sitting real close up to the big dashboard that they had. And I'm watching the tires because I really took my job seriously because I didn't want to wind up in a damn swamp. If your tires went off of there, there was nothing. It was water, it was grasses, and it was just, and lots and lots of trees. So I'm watching, and we're talking about something or whatever. And all of a sudden I see this. It didn't run. It didn't gallop. It just walked. And this big black thing comes out in front of us. Now, my mom would go very slow on this road because if another car came at the same time in the opposite direction, you really had to watch it because you had to slow down because one of you is going to get pushed off and one of your tires is going to go off. And I'm sure it's different now. And there was a little bridge there that you actually had to wait for the other cars to come over before you could go over. It was that narrow. So you already got this like intense thing going on. And I think I was tense because she was tense. So, little kids pick that up. So I'm watching, and this black thing walks in front of the car. And I think I'm going to get to see my first bear. That's what I was thinking. And she's going slow already. And she goes to kind of tap her brakes and slow down even more. And we're kind of just rolling up on this thing, at a very slow, it seems like time just slowed down. And she didn't want to slam on the brake and do something else, I guess, with the car. So she's just kind of tapping, and we're still headed towards this. And she says, it's not leaving. Well, we can't stop in time. So we're either going to hit it or go around it. And I don't think she wanted to take the chance of going around it. And as we come up on it, the front of the Mustang kind of like scoops down. So I could see a lot of this thing. And then I thought, okay, maybe it's not a bear. Maybe it's a hog because it kind of had a body like a hog. We had hogs on the farm, but man, this is big. And then it turns its face like a deer will, like when you're coming at it, it turns and just like gets dead in your headlights kind of thing. It turns its face and looks at us. And my mom says, we're going to hit it. And this face was the most hideous thing I've ever seen. I can't even really describe it. It was like a pig boar kind of thing, but it kind of had some goat features to it, and the ears were kind of wrong. Everything was just wrong about this thing. The legs didn't match it. I can't explain it. The skin on it was kind of bristly like a hog, but then the face was different. I can't really describe it. And as it's looking at us, I grabbed the dashboard and I'm just hanging on ready to hit it. And I promise you, the face kept changing. It was like morphing. At one minute, it had like, I know the eyes moved. I can't really tell you if it had like fangy teeth or anything like that. I really wasn't focused much on the mouth, but the whole face just kept moving. And it was like not once or twice. It was like bam, 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 bam. It just kept to where you couldn't even focus on it. And I remember one time I even think it had like a horn in the center of its head or a bump. It was just horrible. And its eyes were definitely had like a red hue to it. We didn't have our headlights on. And it was, pretty much daylight, just getting into that twilight, before twilight. I don't know, maybe we did have our lights on. I can't really remember, but it wasn't that reflective glow. It was more like they're just red. I can't describe it. But anyway, it changed. And I braced for the hit, and I quick looked at my mom, and I know like she was kind of bracing herself too. And you want to hear that bam, 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 or boom, and nothing happened. It was like we just rolled over it, or it jumped out. And she just lands on the brake and just stops. And now we're just sitting there and we're cold silence. And I look at her and I push myself up against the passenger side. And I'm looking straight at her and I'm looking in front of us. And I'm looking at her. And that daggum Mustang had what you call the louver like window on the back. It looked real pretty from the outside, but you couldn't see out the doggone back window. And she's looking in the rear view, she's looking side view, and she's trying to get a look out the louver window to see if it's behind us. And she's not saying anything. And I'm like, Mom, did you see that? Did you see that? She's not answering me. It's like she's in her own world. And then she broke the silence and she said something really creepy. She said, the water isn't moving. I'm like, what? She repeated it, almost like she's trying to process this in her head. The water isn't moving. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? What the hell does that mean? I'm a kid. What the hell does that mean? I'm scared to death. She's not answering me. I'm like, Mom, did you see that? Where is it? And she's looking. And then she does the scariest thing I've seen her do. She reaches to her side. She grabs hold of the door handle and she opens the door. And her leg starts to go out the door. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm frozen. I can't say anything. I'm like, she's getting out of the car? What is she doing? And I think almost to read my mind, she thought better of it. Quick pulled her leg in, quick slammed the door. And then she hits the gas and she takes off really fast. And then she stops again. I'm like, what the hell? I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And I don't know what she's trying to do. Now I'm looking back thinking, okay, was she trying to like dislodge it? Was she seeing if it was under the car? What is she doing? What does it mean the water isn't moving? Now I think back and maybe she was thinking, well, it didn't jump to either side because there's water on both sides of us. And if it had jumped to either side of us, the water would be moving. It's the only sense I can make of that. I never got to ask her. So I have to just guess now. So I don't know what the quick pull forward and go stop was, whether she thought it was under the car and she was trying to dislodge it. I don't have a clue because I never felt a hit. I can't explain it. And she's still trying to look out this darn louver back window, and she's looking at the side view window again. And I'm just asking her questions. She's not answering. Did you see its face? You saw that, right? You saw its face? And she's not answering me. And then all of a sudden she just hits the gas and she full tilt boogie all the way home. And I just like covered my head and I just like, my God, what just happened? And I remember hearing the tires hit the gravel. I mean, you know that as a kid, you hear that gravel, tires hitting the gravel of your driveway, your home, right? And you feel a little bit better. We made it. And that's when I came out of it, and I'm looking at her and I'm waiting for her to say something. She's saying nothing. And when she stops the car, and that's the first thing she said to me, she looked at me and she said, "You stay right here." I said, "Yes, ma'am." She gets out of the car. She leaves the driver's side open and she starts walking around the car, starting with the side and the back. And I'm watching her through the windows and the mirrors. And she's running her hand along the car. I'm guessing now to see if there's dents, bumps, something. I don't know. She goes around the back. She leans down a little. She comes back around and she comes by me. And then she gets to the front of the car and she kneels down and she takes her hand over the front, looks around, and she stands back up, puts both hands on the hood of that car and hangs her head and just starts crying. And I slowly got out of the car. And I went up to her and she said, "I know we hit it. There's no marks on this car. We're not talking about this anymore." And, "Yes, ma'am." Now, what was that?
Steve, what was that? You got any thoughts, man, on that?
Man, you got me. I've got a similar story in one of my books. People that were traveling from Alabama to East Tennessee, following each other. They were in two vehicles. And the lead vehicle hit something that, depending on which witness you talk to, it looked like either a large black cat like a panther or a guy in a wetsuit crawling across the road. And they actually had like blood and stuff on their car. Went back, thought they'd killed somebody, never found a thing. There's no body, there's no carcass. And it was in a swampy area like that. And then, in South Carolina, Bishopville, you've got the lizard man. I think there's some kind of cryptid or weird entities that like to come out of the water and scare people, creature from the Black Lagoon type stuff. I don't know. It's just, I have no answer for that, but that's a lot of the fun, I think. And a lot of the mystery and the intrigue is not having an answer, because if you knew what it was, it probably wouldn't be anywhere near as entertaining. It could be something simple, but I don't think so. There's things out there that don't have any rational explanation.
Is there any lore around that area? Because that's like the Delmarva Peninsula.
Gosh, yeah.
Like, does anybody talk about like there's weird creatures in the swamp?
Oh yeah, I mean, Steve, there's been. Wasn't there a whole squad or company of Civil War soldiers who disappeared out there in the Dismal Swamp?
Yeah. I'd have to look up that article. Yeah, there was like a battalion or whatever they call it that marched into the swamp and never came back out. So where'd those guys go? Did something get them? Did they desert? Who knows?
Wow.
I don't have a clue. I've heard everything from black dog. It was not a black dog. But, who knows what it was? I mean, in all that changing, obviously, if it was changing, it could have looked like anything, but it wasn't a hog and it wasn't a boar, because I've seen both of those and it wasn't anything like that. Everything was just wrong on it, from the legs to the body shape and everything. And like I said, I don't recall the body changing. I was focused on that face. So I couldn't tell you what the legs and the body, I can't tell you, But I've heard Harbinger of Doom. I've heard Shapeshifter. I'm thinking, what did it panic and was trying to like blink itself out? I don't know. I mean,
Makes you wonder.
Everything sounds crazy, but you know what I mean? There's lots of stuff out there we don't understand.
Like the thing that my friend and I saw when we were kids. It looked like a man. I mean, it was upright. You could only see it from about the shoulders up, but it had a horse's head. But it wasn't a normal horse's head. It had both eyes in the front, but it had these huge horse teeth, and it was grinning at us.
What in the world?
Is that not nuts? I mean, and didn't you say his face kind of changed too, or no?
Yeah, it was so quick and so scary. And my friend saw it about the same time I did, and we took off. And these people lived way out in the country. Their driveway was like probably a mile long. And we took off. We were about halfway down, took off back up the driveway, screaming our heads off. And his dad happened to be outside. His dad and his mom, they heard us coming up the driveway. And his dad got a shotgun and went back down there to see what it was. And we kept listening. We're waiting for a shot. Never heard anything. But when he came back, he told us, like, you boys don't play around there. There's this, they had huge acreage there, a couple of 100 acres, like all kinds of places to play. Don't go back down there. This was in the edge of a few days later. He actually pulled that shack down with a tractor and burned it. So I've always thought he found something or saw something.
It cut out on us, Steve. What was it on the edge of?
It was on the edge of a little gravel quarry there.
Okay.
And there was a little shack up on the top. And that's where this thing was. We were in the quarry. We were kids. We were looking for dinosaur bones. And then we look up, and here's this thing, like a man, and he was dressed in black, almost like a judge's robe or something. It was flowing. Had a horse's head with both eyes in the front. I mean, wide. They looked like the size of grapefruits. And then it had these big square horse teeth, and it just like grinned at us, And it's like all I could see was these giant eyes and teeth. And it had like the head was black too, but it had like an X on the forehead area above the eyes. And it was just like, we were just insane with fear.
Yeah.
But no clue as to what it was. But I said, I think the dad saw something or knew something, because when he came back, he had it wasn't like, okay, you boys, he's just like, don't play down there anymore. There's a lot of places here you can play. And then he pulled that little shack down and burned it. So there was,
that's an exclamation point. That's an exclamation point and an underline of everything you saw, because he didn't just pull it down. He burnt that sucker.
Burned it, yeah.
Yeah. Like he either got a bad feeling about it, or, it wasn't just, I don't want them to play in there. It's like something's in there. I don't want to survive. I'm burning this. To me, that just gives me chills. But,
I can still see him coming back up the driveway with a shotgun over his shoulder. He just had this very grim look on his face. It wasn't, you boys saw something that scared you, blah, blah, blah. There was no humor, really nothing. He was just kind of blank and just like, don't play down there anymore. And that's, like you said, that's an exclamation point that.
Well, it's just natural. People are going to be very, very afraid of things that they don't understand, things that, go past your logic. I mean, my mother was a warrior. And I mean, I've seen this woman fight, natural day-to-day things, crisis, people getting hurt. She was the calm one in the room. My father losing his mind with his, what you want to call shell shock or PTSD or alcoholism. I mean, he was violent. He was a huge, he could be extremely ominous. You know what I'm saying? He was a large man. You had alcohol to all that, height and, just, and she would just battle, no fear, no shaking, just stand up, protect her kids. That time she was white, and I was never used to seeing her like that. She saw something, she felt something, she could not explain it. And it scared me to no end. And she was, it was not long after I lost her, Now you can say connected to things. I don't know. I mean, there'll be many people will tell you that was a harbinger of doom. That was this. Okay. I can't say it wasn't. It's certainly, if it came to warn of something bad, it was correct. But I tend to think more like maybe it was a shapeshifter or something along those lines that just panicked and was trying to blink out.
Trying to get the right look. Let me see. Let's try this. Nope, that's wrong. Let me try this.
Let me try the horn. I'll get the horn. Maybe that'll work.
Well, I tend to think more like, I can't really explain it, but if there is something, and being Native American, I do tend to believe that, because certainly wiser elder people, much smarter than me believe that, So I can't say it doesn't exist, but I don't know how it works. So if they're in that situation and they're trying to blink out or maybe disappear, or why didn't it just walk away? Why didn't it just back up?
Yeah.
I mean, these are all questions. They're good questions. Why would you sit there with this thing coming towards you and change your face? What is that accomplishing? Are you trying to scare us? I mean, what's the purpose of that? None of it makes any sense, from anybody's vantage point, from its vantage point, my mother's, mine, but I can tell you it was damn scary. And it still is to this day. And I can't explain it. I've never heard an explanation that matches it. I did. I don't know what it was.
It makes you wonder what those soldiers saw when they marched off into the swamp and never came back out.
Yeah, really.
Right.
Probably the horseman with the robe.
But to have that face that wasn't quite right to begin with. So, maybe, I mean, I have no clue what this thing was or what it was trying to do in the first place. Just la-di-da, walking through the swamp. Here, let me try some different things, and we caught it in the middle of it. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe it was some kind of, I don't know.
Practicing his shape shifting and
but like
got caught and like, oops, hey, there's a car.
In the time that we have left, guys, let's talk. I want to talk a little bit about the Grinners.
Oh my God, the Grinners. Oh, geez. Yeah. See, when Steve was telling about the horse head guy thing, and you say it smiles at you. There's a certain moment there where you see it like the snot hag. You see it, it sees you, it knows you see it, and it wants you to know that it knows that it knows. You know what I mean? And that's what when
the smile came, this whole like rictus thing with teeth, bigger than ice cubes. It's just like, oh my God.
But there's that grin. I know that you know that I know, and there's the grin. And I don't care what that comes off of. You know what I mean? It could come up. If there's anything you can think of that could come at that time, and it would freak. You'd look at a baby and it do it.
And it's not a friendly grin at all.
It's not
I own you. I can toy with you like a cat and a mouse.
Yeah.
You can't get away from me. You're mine, and I know it, and you know it, and surprise.
Yeah, that's creepy, and I've seen it. I've seen it multiple times. One of the first times I ever saw it, there's this thing. You were asking the beginning of, empath or sensitive or having any kind of abilities. And again, I just think everybody does. I think we're born inherently with an intuition, with a gut instinct, whatever you want to call it. And the more you exercise that, the more, the stronger it may get, whether it's doing push-ups physically or anything, playing a piano. Some people are just better at it. It doesn't mean but we just, strengthen it in different ways. And if you work, okay.
Uh-huh.
So I basically had gotten to the point where I knew I had an ability, and I had been warned through many different channels, spiritual channels, basically Native American, a lot of Buddhism, and Christianity and priests and things like that. I tried to get information from everywhere. And basically they said, when you walk into a room where somebody else has an ability and they may not realize it, but there are energy vampires out there. And basically an energy vampire is as scary as it sounds, but it's not as scary as it sounds. Some people just drain your energy and they don't even realize they're doing that. You walk into a room and you leave and this person just made you just tired. It could be as simple as that.
Mm-hmm. Or you're already in the room and the person enters and you just feel all the energy sucked out of that room. And
right.
You usually pick which person it was too. It's like, I don't do that.
But then there's the ones who do it intentionally for an evil purpose. And that's just to drain your energy. Like you have some energy and they want more of it and they're going to take it from you. So I walk into this store and I've got my niece with me and she's pretty much, I was trying to teach her how to develop her abilities as well. And I said, if we ever walk into a situation, I tell you to get behind me, you do so without questioning. Do you understand? And she said, yes, ma'am. So we were in that situation and I walked in and I felt something and I said, get behind me. And I was trying to figure out where it was coming from because there was a couple people in the store. There was a couple people behind a counter. And then I looked and I spotted her and she's sitting down. She worked at the store. I think she was the owner. And she kind of, at the time I saw her, I think she was picking up that I saw her. And she lifted her head and she turned it and she looked right at me and she grinned. And it was that grinning, that knowing grin that I'm talking about. And the energy just shoots through you. And she knew I knew what she was doing. And she was letting me know she knew it. And we just backed out. I've got a thing that I kind of put up for like protection. We just backed up out of there because I walked into her territory. And I knew I was just back right out of it. We're cool, you know. Now that happens. In the one case I think that scared me the most, I was working in the store and I could feel it coming towards me. And I've got multiple people around me and I'm like, okay, where is it? And right away you just start trying to pin where it is and where it's coming from because you want to try to put up your protection, but you got to keep doing what you're doing too. It's not like, it's your job. You can't just leave, But at that point in time, if it's something bad, I'd walk out on quick because of stuff like that. No, absolutely I would. Because it's for all the marbles, I mean, it's like a silent battle. It's so weird to describe it that way, but that's exactly what it is. It's a silent battle. And this thing that keeps coming towards me, and I kind of pinned it at this one woman, and I'm watching her take stuff out of her cart, and I'm thinking, that's not right, something else. And then I find it. And it's this little kid. He's probably 4 or 5 years old. And if you want to talk about, if anybody's ever seen The Omen.
Oh, yeah.
The way the way that little boy was dressed, like a little, not Lord Fauntleroy, but like a little, student with little loafers and the little gray Argyle socks, that kind of dress, little suit coat. I think he was even wearing a tie, little sucker. And he's sitting in this cart and he's kicking this woman. I'm supposing his mother, who just looks haggard, but she's well put together haggard, but I could feel her energy was very, very extremely tired. And he's just kicking her every time she came by the cart with these little hard shoes. And I'm watching him do it. And I'm like, my God, it's coming from him. And it's just this pure evil energy. And I know it's horrible to say that an evil energy can come from a child. But if you think that that's a bad thing to say, or you think that's coming off the, I don't know even how to explain it, then you don't know this subject very well because I'm telling you, it can happen. It can happen.
Rob, you need to put the theme from The Omen in this story. I'm
just saying what's creepier, right? Because I don't, do I think that it was
strange.
A precious little child? Do I think it was a precious little child, or I think maybe something had the child? I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that. But when he turned his head and he looked at me and he gave me that grin, I was staggered. I was actually knocked off my mark a little, because I had to continue doing what I was doing and help the girl I was helping. And then I found a way to just back out of there because there was nothing I could do. What am I going to do? Knock on, tap the mom and go, excuse me, do you know that your child is a demon? He's wanting to warn you. You may want to get some help there. Have a nice day. What do you do?
Steve, isn't the smiling man, isn't that kind of like a motif in literature? And but you heard like
and people that have encountered him in real life too.
Yeah.
And that's what he does. He just stands, he watches, and then when you take notice, he grins.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And I had a similar instance with a child. When I was probably 10 or 12 years old, I was coming out of the little grocery store in East Tennessee, and there's a little kid, and I just thought, there's something not right about that kid. And about the time I think that, he turns and looks me square in the eye, and his eyes were like a cat's eyes. The pupils were slits, and then they changed, and then he grinned at me, and I'm just like, I'm out of here.
Nope.
But the weird thing, the guy that was with me, my best friend, after we walked away, he's like, "Did you see that kid's eyes?" And I'm like, "Yeah." But, it wasn't like, let's go back and check him out, or he was with a parent or an adult. But yeah, it's like he read my mind. It's like he got that look, and I've had that happen before. I was in Gallenberg one time, and there was this guy that looked like something out of Lord of the Rings. He's standing on the sidewalk up there looking off into the mountains, and he's holding some kind of a staff, but it looked like a boat paddle because it was larger on top, and it had these weird symbols cut into it. And I'm thinking, man, that guy is weird. And about the instant I thought that, he does a full 180 turn, looks at me, and he didn't grin, he just smiled, and then turned right back around and kept staring off into the mountains, and I got out of there. He was a grinner. He just didn't grin. He just smiled. But same thing. It's like he heard what I was thinking.
That's so weird that you mentioned that, because our friend Dr. Future, you probably heard him on the show. He talks about where he went to Area 51. Okay, he was out there with a friend of his, and they were driving around trying to see how close they could get. And they drive by like this guy standing next to a car in like full wizard gear, and he's like got a staff, and he's just like looking into the distance. And then they go to where they go, and then they come back just like a few minutes later, and the guy's gone, the car's gone, the guy's gone. Like what? Like what in the world's going on?
I would like to know what kind of car does a wizard drive.
I don't know. I'm about to ask Tim Renner what he drives, so maybe I can get.
There's just so many things, man. I mean, even David Weatherly talks about, they're driving down the road and all of a sudden they pass what he called the smiling man. Or wasn't it? Was it the smiling man or the grinning man? I don't know. It's one of the two. But it's that same, I know, and I'm going to let you know. You know what? It's just, it's a feeling that comes with it. And it's just like, what are you going to do?
It's like, if you're smart, you'll keep this between us. Yeah, like,
exactly.
And I know that but let's keep it quiet. And then they, okay.
It's none of my business. I'm out of here.
They're taking human form. That's what's going on.
Well, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's a crazy world, man. I mean, we don't have explanations for everything, but these things happen. There's way too many stories out there. I mean, these are mine in the book. These are just some of the things that have happened to me. It's a wonder I'm not in a, padded room on Thorazine or something at this point. Maybe I should be. I don't know.
Of course, if it was Rob, the smiling man would be a clown waving at him, smiling.
Oh, see that?
Gross.
Yeah. And I don't know how more of these clowns aren't getting killed, because I promise you.
We're all slow down here.
Yeah. I just don't understand that. There should be more like clowns being, massacred and stuff. I don't think even people doing that, it doesn't make any sense why you would dress up like that. I've never been a Fear Factor person. I don't understand how that show stayed on as long as it did, because my sons used to watch it, and I'd come in the living room. I'm like, look, if an alien jumps out of a garbage can and jumps me like that, it's going to take 5 or 6 people to pull me off of that thing. I'm going to use everything I can get my hands on, and just, because you're just going to go into wild survival primal mode.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't? Who wouldn't? I don't
fight or flight.
Yeah. I don't get it.
I would never sneak up on Rob dressed as a clown. He'd kill me. I know that much.
Well, they're creepy. Yeah. I'm sorry to all the clowns out there who are listening to the show tonight, but
no, and that's why I try to explain to people.
Clowns were complaining
I don't. When I go to the fair and I see like a group of clowns hanging out, like I'm not comfortable, but I deal with it. You know, if I come home from work and there's one in my backyard, I'm going for blood. Like,
lock and load. But that's just, go back to your territory. You've got no business standing in my backyard like
right.
Just there. Nobody thinks
clown blood. It'd be like full of glitter and confetti.
I would make a confetti.
Cut his throat and glitter pops out. Confetti.
Have you seen the movie Clown? Have you seen that movie?
No.
So the plot of the movie Clown is that he puts on this like cursed clown outfit that turns him into an evil clown, and he can't take it off. And so at one point he tries to commit he does commit suicide, but he ends up coming back. So he blows his brains out, and you see like it's like glitter and confetti and like multicolored on the wall.
That's perfect.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
But yet the real clowns have been complaining. These people putting on clown costumes and scaring people are giving us a bad name. It's like, that's a powerful union there. I'm sure. What are they going to do? Take the shoes and the nose away from them? It's like,
yeah.
The sad clowns.
Give me your shoulder-sized shoes.
Wasn't it Rob who was telling the story where they had found an old shack that was filled with clown paraphernalia or something?
Yeah, we talked about that on the show when I was on with Adam before. We wanted to know what clown paraphernalia it was.
Yeah, it was like a little flower that squirts water. There was some oversized shoes.
That's insanity. That's just creepy.
Nose or a bicycle horn. Okay. That's clowns.
That's so creepy. Well, listen, I mean, you anything standing in your yard now, honestly, that it could be a perfect human being just standing in your backyard. That's creepy. I mean, you look for a minute, it takes you a minute to process it. You're going to go outside, go, what are you doing standing in my yard? What's the deal? But just that alone is creepy. And I will make a confession here on the show. I used to make fun of the Michael Myers and all that. I mean, I did. I mean, I was never into the slasher stuff, and I just thought it was stupid. I mean, why are these women running and falling and breaking their ankle and running into things? And I don't understand this movie. I just didn't, because the kids would like it and the boys, whatever. I understood Freddie more. I'm like, okay, that's got a premise. But this guy just standing there, that's not creepy. And he's just walking like the mummy. Just walking. That's not creepy.
Just run away, right?
I know. Listen, I got put in my place, and I will tell it internationally now. Make my confession. My son takes me to a haunted place. I was all sad, much like a clown, sitting there going, "Oh, it's Halloween. I've got nobody to make a costume for. There's no trick or treaters. What the heck, So he goes, "Come on, Mom, let's go." So he takes me to this local. Actually, turned out to be pretty cool. It was a fire station, whatever, put on a haunted house. And it was kind of neat. And I'm like, oh, gosh, this is going to be, everything you could expect happened. And there was a clown on stilts that came at me, and I thought it was great. And I screamed, and I said, do it again. And he did. It was great. And I screamed. It was wonderful. So we left, and we go out the back end when it leaves, and there's this like MC ghost host or something that takes you through. And I wanted to say, thanks, man. You saved my Halloween. This was awesome. And I'm talking to the guy, and then I look at my son, and he's kind of standing away from me, and he's just looking, and I know the look, and he's smiling, and he's waiting. And I'm like, what? And he's like, and I know something's behind me by the look on my son's face. And I turn around, and there's this guy in the full, Mike Myers was it Mike Myers with the hockey mask? Or the other one?
Jason Voorhees.
That was Jason.
He's dressed
Mike
like
Myers wears the William Shatner mask.
So here's this kid standing there in full dress. He's standing right behind me. And I look at him, and I go, okay, man. And I'm trying to play cool. I'm like, okay, man, this is really funny. You scared me. Thank you very much. Happy Halloween. I'm trying to play it off. He's not leaving. And he's walking closer to me. And I'm like, okay, dude, that's enough. Happy Halloween. Cool get up. And he just keeps walking toward, and I'm backing up. And I'm doing the thing. I'm backing up and I'm backing away from him. And I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to get away from him so I don't cold cock him. I'm trying so hard not to hit him because I'm about to just lose it on him, and I'm trying so hard not to hit him. That's why I'm walking away and I'm backing up, and he's just coming at me, and I'm like, okay, this is enough. And I'm like, and now I start to trot a little, and I start to run to the ground. I'm going toward the car. I'm trying to get in the car, and my son's laughing because the car door is blocked. I can't get in. And then I just turn around and I'm like, okay, I give. It's scary. Here's a hug, and I just hugged him. But I tell you,
Michael Myers just needed a hug. That's all it was.
Fight, flight, or hug.
Yeah. And I had to admit at that time, I had to eat my words and say, okay, damn it, it's scary. But, these things come at us. Like I said, some of the things in the book, I have a little bit of an explanation for. Over time, I've not come easy to some of the conclusions I had, and I try to give, okay, what do you think it was? Let's try this. Here's everything that happened. Here's like even down to the reaction of pets and what it could have been or what it might have been. But here's why I think this. This is why I landed on this conclusion to some of the things that happened to me, because I have had a long time to think about it and a lot of people to talk to about it and ask their opinions. And, until something else comes along to change that, I'm not saying that it, something might change my mind about something that happened to me at this point, but I try to leave it up to the reader, and so does Steve. And Steve just tries to come through behind the chapters and give like a color commentary, what he thinks about it, or maybe an anecdote or something it reminded him of. And I think it's a little different. I like the way it came out. I hope you enjoyed reading it.
Yes, we did. I did. Very good.
There you go.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for writing it, putting it down on paper, and preserving it. Preserving your stories. Where can people get the book?
It is available right now on ebook. Introductory price is $7.99. We tried to keep it low, and you can gift it. There's a little thing there. You can gift it and give it to people for the holidays. And actually, today, thank you, Steve, has been working tirelessly to get into the PDF so we can actually put it in the paper copy too. So that should be out this week as well. Both of them are available on Amazon Kindle. And then I'm going to get some, and then we'll be able to actually send them to people and autograph copies. And I'm trying to get Steve out here to me and get him into Gettysburg, and maybe we can sit there and at the Gettysburg Bash and sign some copies and at the Paracon there, and that would be really cool. So I'm hoping people enjoy it. I hope it maybe eases some mind, maybe eases some grief from people. If it helps you about the loss of a pet or something else and gives you hope, then that is my intention, and if it makes you think that, okay, maybe what I saw, I'm not so crazy, or at least if I'm crazy, I've got a lot of company. So there you go.
And Steve, where can people get in touch with you?
My books are available on Amazon. Strange Things in the Wood, More Strange Things in the Woods, and My Strange World are the three that I have. In addition to the one I helped Sysco with there, she did most of the heavy lifting. I just kind of followed around behind her and tried to keep it at a minimum because I didn't want to detract from the wonderful stories that she told. I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Emails in the back of my books. I love to hear from fans. I get a lot of mail, people, similar stories, or they enjoyed the story and it reminded them of something that happened to them. And that always is a good feeling. I've got some other books in the works, and actually I've got a film project that I've been brought on to. Can't say much about it yet, but it could be interesting. So stay tuned. I'll have more details as they develop.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys. Stay on the line for us. We're going to close out this section, and we'll be back to close out the show.
Welcome back, everybody. I love those guys. It's been a while since we've had them both on, but like I love. I always say this every time, but I love the storyteller episodes. You know, where we get like just a an author that's got a compilation of just the random and the weird. And that's what I live for. The random and the weird.
And with them, we've got 2 for the price of 1, basically. Right. So yeah, I love those too. I love the personal experience episodes. Those are
high strangeness.
Yeah, those are my favorites. And there's some positive stories in there too. I don't know why I kind of went over to like the monsters and crap, but like
hag.
That was
the snot hag.
That was really those are some really good, interesting stories. So I thought those would be good to talk about. For sure, check out the book, guys. I mean, it is good if you enjoy just kind of like the simple kind of storytelling, and it's all true stories.
This is Sysco's first book, right?
Yeah. It's Sysco's first book.
And Steve's other 2 books I have and I've read, and they're both amazing too.
Yeah. His Something is in the Woods.
Strange Things in the Woods.
Strange Things in the Woods. Yeah. It reminds me of the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh, dude.
You remember those books?
The cover artwork from those books terrifies me to this day.
Oh, man. Most of the artwork on there, like, terrifies you.
Yeah.
It's like, I remember there was one, like, it was like some girl is getting married and, like, she ends up, like, trapping herself in a chest and, like, they find her years later.
Oh,
and
God.
The picture is of her, like, some, like, skeleton eyes,
dude,
just, like, with her mouth open.
I was, like, 12 when I read those books, and, like, I was horrified.
Oh, I loved them, man. I ate those things up, dude.
Yeah, I remember always looking for them in the library.
Yeah, they've got them, I think, in a compilation. I saw them over there, like, Books A Million. So what did you think of that, Sergio?
That was pretty cool. I like those stories too, and some really weird stuff.
Yeah, that was strange. Like
then we had some tie-ins with some things of these last episodes and the old Green Eyes and
Green Eyes is coming up a lot. I think we need to make a field trip.
Green Eyes episode.
Yeah, it's not far.
No, it's not. I need to take you guys down there. We'll
find some Green Eyes experts.
Yeah, we'll see if we can interview him.
Yeah.
So we're recording this a couple of days before Thanksgiving, which this will not be out until after Thanksgiving. But I thought in appreciation of Thanksgiving that we could read this news story to close out the show. Police, man who threatened to blow up restaurant says he meant poop, not bomb.
Restroom.
Oh, restroom. No, it's just, well, it says restaurant on the article.
Oh, the one I read said, he man says he's gonna blow up restroom did not mean a bomb.
Yeah, that was the other one.
I use that term.
I do too all the time. And I was saying like,
man, man, did you blow it up?
And that's what I was laughing at. It's like a mugshot of this like poor dude, and it's like, man,
he gets arrested for this.
So he actually got arrested.
So a man accused of threatening to blow up a fried chicken joint in New Orleans said he was referring to a bowel movement, not an actual bomb. The Times-Picayune reports that 30-year-old Arthur Posey was charged in connection with the bomb threat at Willie's Chicken Shack on November 13th. Posey claims he told a male employee that he was going to blow the bathroom up, but the restaurant manager recounted a different scenario.
So he actually said, "Blow the bathroom up."
That was the first.
Come on,
that was the. That was
you don't need to work at a fried chicken joint if you don't know what "blow the bathroom up" means.
Right.
The manager said Posey entered the establishment around 7 p.m. and asked her what time they closed. She told him she did not know, and they got into a heated argument. How did she not know when they closed? The manager told police at one point Posey said, "Y'all about to close right now because I'm going to get a bomb and blow this place up." According to the newspaper, a responding officer said the manager was slightly shaking as she gave her side of the story. Still, Posey denies making any threats and claims it was all a misunderstanding. He's facing 2 counts of communicating false information of planned arson, a mental competency hearing, is scheduled for November 29th in this case.
Man, this poor man.
So
mental competency.
Jesus.
I'm gonna blow the bathroom up.
This sounds like a serious case of miscommunication to me, and somebody that's like possibly, I don't know the situation, but maybe a little bit afraid of black people to begin with.
Well, we don't know the color. We actually don't know the race, the color of the manager. We don't.
Doesn't matter. We do know from the mugshot that this was a black dude that walked in and said, "I'm going to blow up your bathroom," and then suddenly was arrested. I know that's never happened to me. So,
do you normally go into restaurants and be like, "Man, I'm going to go in here and blow the bathroom"?
It's happened.
Is that something that you do? And they're like, "Oh, okay, go ahead. We're fine with that.
Yeah.
Just light a match."
I was working with a coworker, ex-coworker of mine, and he said he came out of the porta potty. He said, "I make bomb, atomic bomb."
Did you call the cops?
No.
Oh, well, what the hell?
I guess I should have called Homeland Security on him. So.
Yeah, you could have done that. What was it that he said that he facing 2 counts of communicating false information of planned arson?
What?
They're just coming up with stuff now. Yeah. Just
You lied about pretending to blow something up.
Just like you going about your day, you know, and you all of a sudden
gotta go, man.
Nature hits you,
man,
right?
How long are you open? Because I gotta go. I have to go take a number 2. If you had phrased it like that, it'd be okay. Like, how long are you open? Because I'm gonna blow your bathroom up. Arrested.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's just another day in America.
Well, I hope the press gets him a good lawyer.
Right.
Yeah, this is going all over Facebook. I've seen it all over the place today. Not exactly a conspiracy theory or a paranormal story, but we just thought we share just in celebration of the season of Thanksgiving, of possibly blowing up the bathroom. There's gonna be a lot of bathrooms blown up this week.
I'm definitely planning. I'm gonna blow mine up. I hope Alyssa doesn't call the cops.
All right. So Rob can commit blowing up the bathroom. Rob, tell everybody about our Patreon, where they can find us, all that good stuff.
Yeah, if you want to help support the show, go to patreon.com/conspiranormal. There's various tiers there. We got a lot of bonus episodes, other bonus content up there. It helps us do what we do, helps us pay for hosting and, studio renovations and all that good stuff. If you don't want to subscribe to anything, you can go to conspiranormal.com for a one-time donation. If you don't want to contribute there and you still want to support the show, just tell your friends, give us a 5-star review. We love that.
We got some really cool new Patreon episodes up too.
Yeah, we do. We do.
The Aaron Gillies one is really cool.
Yeah. We ended up talking about mind control,
all kinds of
and
weird
stuff. Yeah. That we also, Rob, you're still with us.
Still with us.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But you're gonna be scaling back a little bit. We're gonna be doing we're gonna be doing some Surfiels, we'll do some over here.
Yeah, I got some renovations coming up here in the studio, and I'll be busy a lot, and got a lot of other stuff going on in life. But I'll be here for roughly every hour of the episode, whenever I'm available. So
yeah,
we gotta change up the location, to keep them guessing.
Yeah, keep it guessing. Yeah. So everybody's like, was this recorded there or was it over there?
It's harder for them to mess up our internet if they don't know where we're at.
Or blow up the bathroom.
Yeah. Or blow up our bathroom.
So but once you do get this whole thing fixed, I think it's gonna be a lot better.
Yeah.
Especially like you were talking about fixing the roof.
Squirrel proofing.
Squirrel proofing. No more Illuminati squirrels. So I think that once you get that done, it's gonna be a lot better. And all right, well, that's it, guys. Next time is going to be an interesting show. It's going to be kind of a double guest show. I have someone coming on that hit me up about coming on the show that wanted to talk about a book on intelligent design. So I'm really curious to dig into this and talk to him about it. And then we're going to be also be talking with Walter Bosley. He's going to come on. I'm just going to talk to Walter about Secret Space Program stuff, Empire of the Wheel, latest news on that, and all that. So that'll be the next show. And we're rapidly winding down 2018. And it's got a couple others, like I think 3 more episodes after that, and then 2018 is over. So that's how things are going to be looking on Conspiranormal.
I wasn't ready. He freaked me out.